Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus. So we'll do a quick trade recap. I'll show you guys the positions I had coming into this week, and I'll show you guys the possible opportunities we'll have for next week. So let's take a minute and do the trade recap thing. I had 3 positions this week. So the first one was on Tuesday. So if you look at this right here, so we started on Tuesday, that was October 14. So the first position I had was a sell. So we're looking at this piece right here. You had an impulse, you had a correction, and as price came in like struggling to the upside, I was anticipating a sell off of this area right here. So I was expecting sells coming off of this area. Now if you look at the aftermath of this one, price took me out completely. So that was a loss right there. So the first position on Tuesday, that was a loss. So you look at it right here, that was a loss. Then we had another opportunity on the 15th. I'll show you guys. So same thing, impulse, then a correction, and you can see price started making higher highs up into this area. So I got in at this point, had my stop loss right here. You look at the aftermath of this one, that's it right there. So at this point, so I didn't close my position at this point. So initially I was looking at those highs, but I don't think I closed it at these highs. I think at this point I moved my stop loss to break even. So from here, I had my stop loss at break even right there. And if you look at it, so I had a little bit more, let's say like more returns on this, just a little bit, because initially I was going for these highs, but price like moved a little bit higher and I was able to close it at this point. And if you're looking at this way of, or like this approach thing, it's because sometimes when you're dealing with prop firms, if you're closing those positions during news events, then they're going to flag your accounting. So I didn't close it at this point. I waited for the news event thing to go out, die down and stuff like that. And then I closed it eventually. So that's it right there. So that was a win. And I took another position, I think, like this morning and stuff. So this one was a pending order. So I was doing the same thing. It was an impulse, then the correction, inability to make new lows, and you could see price building up like this. So I was expecting prices to pull back a little bit, giving me a better price. Then I can go in for the buys again. So this was a loss. So I just woke up and I saw this. So price took me out completely right here. I got tapped in and played out just a little bit to an area like this, and then I got stopped out. So 3 positions this week. The first one was a sell, that was a loss. Second one was a buy, that was a win. And the third one, that was another buy attempt, and that was a loss. All right guys, so that's it for this week's trade recap. Now let's look at the DXY and look at gold properly. I have something really interesting coming up for next week, and I'll show you guys once we break down gold. All right. So starting with the DXY, if you look at this piece right here, so I'll take you guys to the 4-hour time frame real quick. You look at this piece right here, so I'll show you guys why this was the reason why I had the buy position on gold. The last buy position, that was a loss, and this threw me off because you're looking at this piece right here. You have a channel, trend lines in both directions. Then you could see price breaking out of this area. So at this point, I was anticipating, let's say break. You get a retest of this area or this trend line, and to see the DXY moving again to the downside. So that was the reason why I had the buy positions on gold, because I was still expecting the DXY to sell a little bit. And if you look at this on the daily time frame, the same piece of price action. So we was breaking out of this area right here. So I was expecting the DXY to drop again to the downside. So I had those buy positions on gold. And that was the reason, that was a backbone to everything. Now looking at this after taking the loss in gold, now I have to reanalyze this again. So looking at the DXY multiple time frames, the daily, the 8 hours, 4 hours, and then lower time frames. Now on the daily time frame, I'll probably expand this real quick. So if we look at this on the daily time frame, and then I'll come back to the other time frame. So you look at this on the daily time frame, we're coming off of this impulse to the downside, then there's a correction, there's another impulsive move, there's a correction, there's an impulse, and there's an inability. So if you're going off of like the structures, high highs and higher lows, we had a low right here. Price attempted to make another low. There was an inability for price to make further lows. We had this area taken out, so this trend line got taken out. So there was a violation of this trend line, and if you look at the immediate structure thing, like what is playing out currently, you have price giving you this impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. And at the time I was looking at this violation here, right here, I was looking at this violation and thinking, all right, cool, we've broken back into this channel. So this channel right here, we've broken back into this channel, and I was expecting, let's say, a movement to the downside. Now it's not completely over, because we could eventually see the DXY coming back to an area like this, inability, and you see price moving again to the downside. So there's lots of possibilities right there. I'll just bring this down again and show you guys what I'm looking at. So that's what I'm looking on the daily time frame right here. And if you look at this now on the 8-hour time frame, the picture becomes completely different. So if I'm paying attention just to this recent price action on the DXY on the daily time frame, you can take this and look at it on the 8-hour time frame. So it's an impulse. I'll use this one. It's a correction. It's an impulse. It's a correction. And this piece right here, it looks like price is breaking out. So if you look at this piece right here, it looks like price is breaking out of that channel, but we've had a complete reversal and price is currently sat within the channel again. So based off of this, I'm still expecting the DXY now to move to the upside. So I'm expecting the DXY to move again to the upside. But while it moves to the upside, let's say we get a buy up into this area right here, and if there's an inability for prices to go past this area, then we could see the DXY breaking again to the downside. So that's a possibility right there. So that's something I'll pay attention to coming into next week. So if you look at this on the 4-hour time frame, it's the same translation on the 4-hour time frame. So we had this break right here, and I think it threw lots of people off as well. And now price is coming back into that trend line or into that channel thing. So on lower time frames again, we're expecting the DXY to move to the upside. Now when you look at this on the 2-hour time frame, and let's say you go lower, let's say the hourly, it makes perfect sense. So you look at this on the hourly time frame, same thing. There's an impulse, there's a correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, there's an impulse, there's a correction, then the violation. Now this piece of price action, what you're seeing on the hourly time frame, it's very similar to what happened on the daily time frame. I'll show you guys real quick. Take this out right here, and I'll zoom out on the daily time frame real quick. So on the daily time frame, you're looking at impulse, correction, impulse, inability right there. You get a violation, you get price testing, building the new trend line thing. On the hourly time frame, you're looking at this impulse, it's a correction, it's an impulse, it's a correction, it's an impulse, it's a correction right there. And now price is testing this area right here. So you're expecting the DXY to move again to the upside. So if you look at this on like the 2-hour time frame, and if you step down to lower time frames like the hourly or 30 minutes, you look at this piece of price action and you bring it right here. This piece of price action on the 2-hour time frame, you're looking at this on like the 8-hour time frame. It ties perfectly with what's happening on the 8-hour time frame, because if there's that inability for prices to drop below this area, then you could see the DXY moving slowly to the upside. So this piece of price action, like this information on this multiple time frame analysis on the DXY, it's gonna help me lots when I'm looking at gold, because with this understanding, if this holds through and the DXY has to move to the upside, now it might be a temporary move to the upside, because there's two things again I'm looking on the DXY right here. So the first thing is this trend line right here. So we're looking at this trend line right here, and we're looking at this violation on the daily time frame. So in as much as the DXY is moving to the upside on lower time frames, I'm still looking at this on the daily time frame, and there's this possibility we might see the DXY just doing. So prices come back into the channel thing. So you might look at this, prices come back into the channel. Now you might see price coming back, testing this trend line, and you see prices moving again to the downside. So in as much as there's this possible movement on lower time frames like the 8-hour time frame, so you're looking at this piece right here, in as much as I'm looking at this and there's that inability of prices holding within an area like this, and it looks like we're headed to the upside, at the same time I'm looking at the daily time frame, this trend line right here, we had a breach of that, price pulled back inside, we might just get a test of that upper trend line, and you see the DXY dropping again to the downside. So in as much as this on the 8-hour time frame and the 4-hour time frame, it shows you signs of the DXY moving to the upside, what is happening on the daily time frame is going to supersede what's happening on this other time frames. So I'll pay attention to that as well. So looking at this on lower time frames, I think I spoke about this already on the 2-hour time frame. It's the same thing if you're looking at the hourly. So let's look at this on the hourly time frame right here. So we're looking at this space, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. There's a violation, then there's a correction. We should expect some pullback thing, maybe to an area like this, for the price to move again to the upside. So those are all possibilities right there. So the DXY is still a little bit confusing. It's not giving you like that perfect direction thing. So that's on the daily time frame. I think we can look at this on the weekly as well, but let's keep it on the daily time frame. So that's my analysis, expecting this price to move to the upside, but I'm very cautious of what's happening on the daily time frame. This upper trend line might be like, it might just be like that problematic area. But if we go through this on the daily time frame, let's say we go through this trend line right here, if we break out of this trend line again, then I know we're taking off on the DXY. So we should see prices headed to like the 100 level, like that psychological level of 100 right there. So that's my analysis on the DXY. So let's look at gold, because that's the most important one. And if this holds through on the DXY, if we see prices moving to the upside on the DXY, I'll show you guys some selling opportunities I'm looking at on gold. So let's look at gold real quick. If you've been having difficulties and with this buying pressure on gold, and you sat there looking at it and you're getting confused, it's gonna help you if you can look at higher time frames. So let's look at this. So if you look right here, I have the monthly time frame right here, and I was talking with a friend in the community, and we was like, gold is just going through all the psychological levels, like there's no level sat there. And I had to look at higher time frames, and I was like, I haven't looked at the monthly time frame in a little bit. So if you bring this out like this, I haven't looked at the monthly time frame in a couple of weeks. So I was paying attention to what's happening on the daily time frame, and I didn't even look at the weekly like that. So once we started breaking through this psychological level, like it's not even sat there, I knew there was a problem. So I had to look at this higher time frame thing and ask myself, like, where is price at, and where is price most likely gonna head to? Because on a higher time frame, you might be sat here looking at a completely different thing. So when I looked at this on the monthly time frame, if you look at this from like early 2000s and stuff, so maybe 1998 and stuff like that, we had this bullish push to the upside, or this bullish run. Then we had the consolidation right there. So you sat here looking at this on the monthly time frame. Price is telling you exactly what it wants to do, based off of my psychological levels and based off of like the trend lines, which is like the channel in both directions. So if price is currently at 4,000 or just a little bit above 4,000, where is this price most likely going to gravitate to? So I'm still expecting a push to an area like this. So we might see gold headed to about 7,500. So an area like this, we might see gold headed to this piece right here, right around 7,500. So there's this massive area we can play with. So this piece right here is a lot of price action we can deal with. So that's just, there's still lots of buying pressure on gold, and we need to take it one step at a time. But this is very important, because if you don't look at this from higher time frames, you'll probably get thrown out a little bit and you won't understand like the bigger picture thing. So I'm looking at this, it's an impulse right here. So it's an impulse right here, then it's a correction, and I'm expecting another impulsive move. So that's it on the monthly time frame, or like the bigger picture thing. So if you bring this down, so right here, so we know we're expecting gold to move to the upside. So the next psychological level I'm looking at is 5,000, which is right here. So on lower time frames, then if you look at this on the weekly time frame, so let's bring this on the weekly time frame. So there's a piece right here. You can look at this, because once you start putting the trend line shift, you look at this on the weekly time frame and you can map this out. So you see where the price shifts from one trend line to the next. So somewhere around here, somewhere around here, this piece right here. So somewhere around here, that's the part where I got this trend line on the weekly time frame, then the daily and stuff like that. So we're looking at this on the weekly time frame. It's an impulse, it's a correction right here, then it's another impulsive move. Now, if you remember what I said about the DXY, if we see the DXY moving to the upside slowly, that could be an early indication for us to respect the sales on gold coming in. Now you can see the sales in this direction or in this shape, and you can see the sales coming in something like this. So you could see something like this. So you could see like a flat out, or you could see a channel to the downside. But either way, if you see this correction coming in, then we're looking for buys again to the upside. So that's it right there on the weekly time frame. Now it's going to be a little bit difficult for us to read this on the weekly time frame. And whilst I'm looking at this on the weekly time frame, if you remember, like, let's look at this on the DXY again. So if you remember, you're looking at this on the daily time frame. If there's that inability for these buys to hold through and take the DXY through this trend line right here, if there's that inability for the DXY to go through this area, you might get a bounce or a test of this area right here. You're getting a test of this area, and you see the DXY moving to the downside. Now, how is this important whilst you're looking at gold? So you're looking at gold right here on the weekly time frame. Price has taken out this trend line right here. So you had this upper trend line thing. So normally you're looking at the trend line, you're expecting prices to get to that trend line, some resistance or some difficulty, and then for prices to move again to the downside. But price got to that area and you had this minor breach of that area. So while I'm looking at this, if there's that inability for the DXY to move through that trend line, then you might see this piece right here telling you a lot on lower time frames. And all we might be looking for is a correction and then a continuation again to the upside. And that's why, like, the trend line thing is not your all and all, because price can get there and there's no rejection and price just blows through that area. And there's the same thing with psychological levels. You've seen the same thing at 4,000. Price got to 4,000, no rejection, no major rejection at 4,000, and price just blew through 4,000. So it depends on what's happening, the economy and everything. When you start putting these things together, it tells you a bigger story thing. So that's what I'm looking at on the weekly time frame. And if you look at this on the daily time frame, same channel on the daily time frame, now you can look at the trend line shifting. So there's a minor trend line building up right here. So if the DXY starts moving to the upside and positively and stuff like that, I'll look at gold. The first trend line I'm paying attention to, there's one trend line on the 4-hour time frame, this minor trend line, and I'll show you guys the selling opportunity I'm looking at. So it's gonna be a push right here, it's gonna be a push right here, an inability, and then we look for this drop to the downside. So that's just like the immediate thing, like temporal move if we're looking for those sales. Looking at this on the daily time frame, we could see price coming again to the downside, maybe to an area like this, an inability, then we'll see prices going to the upside. But looking for those buys right now, I'm just going to pause a little bit. I need to see more displacement, I need to see more corrections coming in, then I can look for those buying opportunities. And currently we'll look at this on the 4-hour time frame. I'm going to expand the 4-hour time frame real quick. So if you put your trend line thing right here, so that's your swing move, that's your correction, there's a pivot point set right here. You can do a swing move, you get the correction thing, you get another pivot point, you get a swing move right here, you get a correction, that's another pivot point. Now we're having another swing move. So what we're looking for right now, or what I'm looking for, is just a correction thing to the downside. So how is price going to move all the way to the downside? If we can see something like this, then I'll be expecting buys again to the upside. And that's why the buys on the DXY is going to be very crucial, because if you see those buys coming in on the DXY, then you could expect the sales coming in on gold. So that's on the 4-hour time frame. Let's see this on the 2 hours. So on the 2-hour time frame is like just the same thing. There's no difference right here. So let's see this on the hourly. All right, and on the hourly time frame, I'll probably stop on the hourly time frame, and I'll show you guys my trading, how do you call it, like the anticipated sales I'm looking at on gold. So when you look at how price has been moving in the past, so look at this. When you're working with, let's say, a predominantly bullish pair, I don't know how it is for you, but I have a very simple way of looking at it, or this simple analogy. With a predominantly bullish pair, price does the same thing every single time. It's an impulse, it's a correction, then it's an impulse, then it's a correction, it's an impulse, it's a correction. Now the corrections look different, but you need to know the different variations, like this, how this correction's coming. It's another impulse, so we're looking for a correction. So if I zoom in on this piece of price action right here, we're currently sat within the first phase of this correction thing. So we're looking at this piece right here. It's an impulse, so all we're waiting for right now, it's a correction. And that's why I said I'm expecting sales coming into next week. So here's my thought process. I want to see the gold moving up a little bit, because we had this massive sell, so we had a displacement right here. We can call it a violation. We had this piece taken out. Now when you're dealing with predominantly bullish pairs, there's certain rules, there's certain things I'm looking at. So price moves to the upside, it gives you a pullback, impulse correction, like impulse correction, impulse. It's been the same for a very long time. So I'm looking at the same thing here, impulse, then there's a correction or there's a bridge. So when you look at this impulsive move, this correction that always comes in, it's not an aggressive sell thing. It's something that happens on predominantly bullish pairs. It's like you get an impulse, you get a correction thing. So you're looking at the same thing, impulse, and you're looking at this space, correction. So that's an impulse, so I'm expecting a correction. So how do you trade this correction right now? So taking sells at this point doesn't really make sense, like logically. You can't sell off of this initial break or this initial violation thing. So you wait for the same thing to happen, just giving you a correction to the upside. Once you can spot an inability for prices to move to the upside, let's say around an area like this. Now I don't know how this correction is going to come in, but my thought process already is, if I can get price correcting to the upside, then I'll look for potential sells. So here's my anticipation coming into next week right here. So once we get a correction to the upside, and then I'll be looking for sells. So something like this. Let's say maybe a 1:4, 1:5, so right around there. If I can get, you know what, let's do a 1:5 thing. So something like that. So if we can get prices coming back to the upside, you get a pullback to the upside. And I want to see this pullback coming in a very corrective manner, like this difficulty to make new highs. So I want to see price pulling back to the upside. It's correcting. I'll probably show you guys real quick. So you want to see the push to the upside, push to the upside, push to the upside, with price having these difficulties to make new highs. So once you see something like this, it's an early indication. Then you can go in lower time frames, wait for those confirmations, and then you spot those entries, and then you're looking for yourself. So that's something I'll be looking at within this piece of price action. So that's my analysis right there. I'm expecting some sales coming into next week. So I'll look for sales depending on what's happening on the DXY. If the DXY proves to be moving in the opposite direction, let's say the sales on the DXY because of that daily trend line thing, then my thought process is going to be different. We might see this price headed to the upside, pushing back to the downside, and that difficulty to go through this area. Then I'll look for buying opportunities. So just the same thing right there, like this. And with this one, because we've not taken out this highs, so that could be like a 1:4 thing. So let's put this right here, like a 1:4 thing. So depending on what happens on the DXY, there's like this buy possibility and there's this selling possibilities as well. So I'll take this buying one off for now because I'm still highly anticipating this sales coming in. So yeah, so I'll pay attention to this 4-hour time frame. Now if this price gets to this area, it's already here, but if there's that difficulty for this price to stay within this trend line thing, so you're looking at this space right here, you're looking at the 8-hour time frame. If there's that difficulty for price to stay within that area, then you could see the drop coming in. So we're looking at this space, price could just drop again to the downside, and all this tells you is there was that break and there's a test right there. There was a break, there was a test, you could see price moving to the downside. All right guys, man, I hope this helps you, mate. Like, there's not a lot I can do, there's not a lot I can talk about, there's no positions I'm currently sat in. So see you guys next week. Make sure you're consistent, you're patient, and you're praying all the time. And I'll see you guys during the next one. Yeah, bye for now.